Hey everyone, it's been a little while since I've made a new video, but I've finally trying to get up to date with some of my new tutorial projects that I have been boasting about for a while, but haven't actually gotten a chance to put together. Today it's the M4 Sherman tank, the M4 medium of the Second World War. People have already seen a lot of my Sherman, I know that much, but this is the updated tutorial. This is going to be the full tutorial for the entire vehicle, the base model as it is, with, as you can see here, the new turret basket, which was one of the featured changes that I made to it, along with some new engine decking and some other changes that I made to it. This is my first official redesign of this version, and now that I have so many variants of it, I'm trying to find a way to make the tutorials appropriate so everyone can follow along. Trying something out a little bit new here that is kind of a new tutorial style, where, as you can see, I'm showing things a little bit more than just individual connection of all the pieces, because it's pretty intuitive for people who know Lego to be able to figure out what they're actually looking at. As you can see, I'm not just placing all these pieces down directly, but instead showing the orchestration of how they'll go, because everything in this should be pretty self-explanatory. I have been meaning to do a parts list, but I still haven't gotten around to that yet too. But for now, it's just this. There's a little bit of showing that's going to be intuitive, so people can figure out how to make kind of these little chunks and pieces as they fit together. But I showed the very complicated parts, but for the most part, it's just kind of showing off right here. It's pretty self-explanatory, and it should be pretty easy for anyone to follow along and build the new build here. So as you can see here too, with the parts of the wall that are a little bit different here, it's pretty intuitive. Not, like I said, not placing the individual pieces on so much, but showing you kind of just what pieces were used, and you can figure it out, and it shows all the stud dimensions, and it goes nice and slow for the most part, instead of just trying to waste time of placing all the pieces on, because that can get really complex, and it's quite frankly harder to film, and I want to find easier ways to film so I can make easier tutorials that are easier to follow along and to build. I get that it's a less standard style of building, but it's pretty intuitive, and it is somewhat self-explanatory, so you guys are smart, you can figure it out. This again is a documentation process for myself too, so that I can build my own Sherman and make variants from it. Yeah. As far as the variants go, this one right here is my standard Army model A3 and M4 A3 Sherman medium tank. I have plans to do other different variations, but because of how the engine decking goes and the standardization of the A3 in the U.S. Army, as far as I know, that's kind of the medium that I've been building for my my collection right now. So mine is an A3 designation, but I would like to show off some other variants that I'm going to be building for the standard M4. Potentially an A2 variant. I would like to do an A1 variant, but I have not gotten around to that. So for now, it's just my standard A3. I did recently buy some new parts, which I didn't get a chance to show off, which I might still do, but I haven't decided yet, from kind of a used Lego part store to get some bulk pieces. And this is actually the third Sherman I've been able to build. So my platoon right now that I hopes to be 5 Shermans one day with all the crews is now up to 3 Shermans, which is pretty cool. This is kind of my factory issue variant of it that has no modification. So I've showed some field modified versions and some really complicated versions of it in the past, but this is the one that is the most standard model. So this will be the easiest one to build in case anyone is interested in doing so. Like I said, these tutorials are also comprehensive for me to be able to go back and build my own stuff, but I know I've said that lots of times over, so everyone kind of already gets that whole bit. Yeah, so it's just building up from the ground here now. I think that it's a really nice build as far as the simplicity goes. I've had a lot of people comment on how it's a simpler Sherman build and it doesn't take very advanced pieces. This one is a little more parts intensive than the last one that I made, my old tutorial that is still one of my most watched videos. But I'm trying to find ways to make it more concise and easier to follow along. Feel free to slow down the video or pause it at any point if you're confused on how it is. Or if you have questions about more how it's built or any other explanations about any of the process, feel free to leave it in the comments down below the video. I'm trying to find more ways to interact with people who have built my projects or like to see my projects, because I really enjoyed the community side of this that I didn't think that I would. It's kind of self-explanatory, but for the The parts that appear symmetrical, they always are. So if I did not show any sides or pieces that have any extra studs on them, then they don't have any extra studs on them. I've tried to be really thorough about that. So anything like in that last shot, in which pieces are replicated or something like this, where I show two pieces that look symmetrical, then they are symmetrical. So that's kind of a pretty decent rule to follow for building this, because it is self-explanatory. And like I said, if you know Lego, it takes a little bit of innovation, but you can see this and recognize it and be able to build it, even if it's not individual pieces going together all the time. But I find that the chunk sort of building method works better for me, and it's a better way for me to be able to produce these videos in a way that's more comprehensive, that's a better use of my time, and hopefully the people who want to build it. I'm trying to find also more ways to interact with people who have built any of these projects or have followed along. I've seen a couple people who've done some really splendid builds building the Shermans that I've made and some of my other tanks, and that's always a delight to see. So if you built this tank, or you follow any of my tutorials, or you made anything, feel free to let me know in the comments, or places I'd love to see them. And I've seen some lovely projects by some lovely people that have been interested in some of the things that I've made. And it's cool to see that and interact with the kind of the community, this little niche part of the community as it is. So this is the new engine decking here. This is the A3 engine decking with the fresh air intake, I think is what it was, the decking on the top that's got the grates on it. I did do a variant of this for the standard M4 that does not have the grate system on it. That was another suggestion I got from a subscriber, so that'll be featured, hopefully. I'll do a deck variant for that. At least I'd like to anyways, along with some other turret variants. And I was working on a Sherman Jumbo, that I haven't fully fleshed out yet, but I'm getting around to. I was really satisfied with how that deck came down and how smooth that was. Now that I bought some more bulk parts, it's mostly just silly little pieces, but I had to buy some more pieces so that I could get it all kind of locked in there. So more of this stuff too, as the walls kind of come up, you can see that it looks complicated, but again, if I don't show anything, you shouldn't have to guess. It's pretty self-explanatory, and a lot of it is the same. It's mostly the same walls. So like one side of the wall is going to be exactly the same as the other side of the wall, unless of course you'd like to modify it or find different pieces that work for your collection as far as making modifications to the actual tank. And I've seen some lovely modifications of this vehicle already that people have posted online. It's been a really delight to see that, like I said, because the Sherman is just like that, and it's a fun thing to build. And like I said, this is my very routine model, so you've probably even seen the other ones that I've made too. They're kind of different modified ways and stuff that, as far as the Sherman goes. So that's always a cool thing to be able to do and to be able to customize it. And people have seen, I like making my crews and stuff as well. But yeah, this is a very, very comprehensive tutorial for the most part of the newest version of my Sherman. It's kind of my Mark II build of it since its original release, like I said, which was one of my most watched projects on my channel. I think it's up to almost 5,000 watches or something as of now, which is pretty cool. The original part 1 tutorial, which is really neat. I'm glad that people enjoyed it. Like I said, it's really cool to see people kind of interact in that way and enjoy this build, because it has, a functioning interior, and it's got room for, guys inside, and it's got, opening hatches and spaces and all that kind of stuff for different bits of gear. And it's hopefully not too complex if people do want to build it. Like I said, I have had people ask a lot for comprehensive parts lists or PDFs or things for that. I design all my projects by hand. I've mentioned that before, so I don't use a lot of the other computer programs or things people usually do to design stuff online like this. So when it came to that, it's not really easy for me to import any of that extra information, because I do it all by hand and just on my desk with the pieces that I have. But I would hopefully in the future like to be able to do that, at least for this project, maybe to do, sort of a comprehensive parts list for anyone else. And I have had some fans make me some fun little parts list and stuff too, which is always kind of neat to see. So yeah, it's a pretty simple design, as people have seen. A lot of it is very, very similar to the original tutorial. I wanted to wait an appropriate amount of time before releasing this tutorial so it wasn't just too redundant, and I've actually made big changes. Like I said, the new turret with the turret basket system and the new seating arrangements inside the tank, along with the new engine decking, was enough to warrant kind of a change of the tutorial, and to really get a chance to update it and make it be more up to speed as I'm making more modifications to it. I've mentioned before I have other Sherman variants I'd like to build too. I said a Calliope might be fun, which is the rocket launcher variant, or the bulldozer one, or some of the other recovery vehicles or cool engineering vehicles that were based off the Sherman chassis. Might be really fun. But yeah, so now I'm building the engine deck here, or not the engine deck, but the actual tank deck that sits below the turret. This was the piece that I had ended up cutting a hole in for pinning the turret basket all the way down. I really like that design, but I've rebuilt this and the turret so many different times that it can get a little bit redundant. But like I said, I try to use simpler pieces so that it's not too complex in case anyone wants to follow along or build it. Suffice to say though, the more that I make these tutorials, the more that I can go back and watch my own videos and recycle old projects to be able to make new variants. Excuse me. So I'm excited to be able to have this video up as well, just because it's going to be for me, and to be able to recycle some old projects and work on some of the new ones. I have some camo variations I'd like to try, potentially with the like a black color. I've seen a lot of people do black and the dark bluish gray color to represent the Normandy camouflage, because we don't actually have any olive green color or sand green color in the appropriate parts quantities to do, excuse me, full like Sherman builds like that, as people will know. Though I'd love if someday LEGO released enough of those parts to be able to build a Sherman like that. That would be really neat, but I think we're probably a really long way away from that because they have no necessity or need to do that. So I kind of like in this one the simplicity of the little white and cream colored accents on the inside of the tank. In case anyone's wondering, I know a lot of people like to build this stuff in gray, but in case anyone's wondering, the inside of tanks of that era were painted cream or white colors like that to reflect the most amount of light, to kind of lighten up the inside of the tank, which definitely helps for the crew that's in there, in case anyone's curious. I like doing white accents and off-color accents so that it's not that boring and you can tell kind of where pieces go and that stuff too. So this is the bottom of the turret basket here, which is simple but still complex as it follows. It's a really fun thing to document and design. As I showed it off on my channel, there's posts and other videos, and if people are curious about crew compartments or how to use this tank to the best effect as far as fitting minifigures in it, feel free to watch my my Marine Corps Sherman video that I made that has sort of the exploded view on the front cover of it. That's the functioning turret basket video. It kind of explains the crew compartment, which I didn't end up going over in this video. The turret basket is pretty rudimentary, as I've shown off. It only's got that one strut on there that is actually not very historically accurate, but there's just so little I can do with that actual space, and I was just really keen on getting the gunner seat in there. The section of the tutorial gets a little bit complex. I kept it as simple as I could for the most part. That saves the most amount of time, but if you end up building this turret, I would encourage people to watch closely as far as what I'm doing with my hands and what the pieces actually are, because it can get a little complex. But this turret is so complex, and I've built it so many times, sometimes I even dread building it because of how complex it is and how complex it can be to assemble and line up all the lines to make sure everything's in the right layers, just especially because I use a lot of the same color. But that's another reason that the pieces are a couple different colors, just to kind of sort through the layers, so you can kind of tell where they're kind of supposed to go in that. I definitely simplified it. It used to be a lot more complicated. But now it's a little bit simpler, so that's kind of a good thing in the long run though too. So I try to add some more supports and stuff too, and that black bit right there in the center is actually supposed to be a radio box, kind of. That's where the radio module would sit in the turret of the M4 medium. And I have a better radio module, I think, in my T23 76W turret that also I've designed for the turret basket. And like I said, I will hopefully be doing more turret basket, like the turret basket variations for my tank, to show off the other one and the Firefly and all the other good stuff that I like to do. The 76 though is actually a different design and will warrant a different tutorial, but the Firefly will be pretty easy, and hopefully the jumbo turret would be pretty easy, I think, but we'll see if I can get around to that. But yeah. It looks a little funky as it is, but it does get a little bit better as it goes along. Like I said, I went to like a used Lego parts store, and I got a bunch of bulk pieces, which was kind of cool because I needed a lot more of those little intricate bits and a lot of stuff too. I'm trying to find more effective ways to get bulk pieces, so if anyone has any suggestions, I know people use Bricklink and stuff like that, which I haven't used a whole lot of, but I'd be more curious about, where people find their Lego and how they get as much now that I've gotten even more into building than I have. And the project of the YouTube channel has been really fun to interact with people and see my own building criteria. And, as I mentioned before, the M4 Sherman is a tank I told myself I'd never build. So the fact that there is one on my channel, even though it looks a little goofy and it's a little strange, but is kind of unique, is a really cool thing. And I've really enjoyed that process and sort of that growing and trying to evolve as being a builder. And I've been happy to document it and share it with other people. And I'm glad other people have enjoyed it a lot. Excuse me. So it'd be cool. Like I said, it's cool to see what other people do and what they do inspired by my projects. So it's always fun to see those projects. So, hit me up, let me know if you built the Sherman, if you liked it, what you did with it, how you modified it, how you changed it, how you made it your own. I've seen some, like I said, I've seen some pictures and posts of people who've made it, and it's really delightful to see. And I'm glad people have enjoyed it as much as they have. To make a kind of, simple, affordable M4 Sherman build, because, just want to be able to appreciate something like this. It's been really cool to see other people do that and, see different turret variations and builds and stuff too. Like I said, especially with the crew compartment, which I think is kind of a unique idea for a tank of this scale. But I had so much fun building it. It's cool to be able to, get a chance to share that with the community and anyone else who is along for the ride, which has kind of been growing lately. I think I'm almost at like 800 subscribers, which is kind of fun. Definitely don't do it for the fame, but as there's not a lot of luxury in that. But I do enjoy that there's people who are interested in coming along for the ride and they want to see what I make. I love getting the feedback and hearing what other people have to say. And like I said, people who built my stuff and enjoyed the content. Has been really fun. It's really rewarding. But as I've said in the beginning of the channel hundreds of times, it's just me building for me, and I always would go back and watch my own videos and build stuff because I just enjoy this medium and I enjoy this this build style, and it's just cool. So this top engine decking, oh man, I keep saying engine decking. This turret decking is a single hatch variant. I did end up making one that had a double hatch, and there's some other different turret decks that I'd like to do. This one does not have the 50 caliber machine gun on the back, though you can see that and build that from one of my other tutorials, and I've got one on the original Sherman tutorial that you can build that, and it actually has no radio antenna, which kind of turned out to be sort of a big garish detail on some of my other designs, but I left this one as rudimentary as possible so people can get the base model and then work with whatever they like to do to make that more accessible as far as them designing it themselves. So this turret can be a little bit tricky to connect here. As you can see, I left this clip in because I thought it was funny because I do mess up stuff every once in a while, but I did break it, and I had a bit of a fit trying to just get it in there, but that piece can be a little bit flimsy because it doesn't have the appropriate support, but it does click right in there and spin okay. The pieces do just have to be clicked down pretty good, so don't be lazy or shy about the connections and make them pretty good and it'll be all right. Obviously, there's the tracks too. I counted a couple times. I think there's 42 on both sides. If you buy yourself a 100 pack of the tracks, you'll be good to go. 42, I think, like I said, for each side. It might be 43, but I'm pretty sure it's 42. And yeah, that's it. M4A3 Sherman, simple design by Reese Phillips here. And that's all. I hope you enjoyed watching, and have a good rest of your day.